Hello there, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast. We have just finished up the 2018 first-year player draft, and we are doing a very special draft edition of the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast. With that said, this will be the 58th edition of the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast, and as always, we're brought to you by our friends at Velocity Wings in Sterling, Virginia. I am Rob Pimpsner, the founder of Pinstriped Prospects, and this edition of podcast, we're going to be breaking down the 2018 player draft. Stay tuned for some great baseball conversation, and throughout the episode, we're going to be bringing you some exclusive interviews with several of the Yankees draftees this year. Tonight, we are joined by Ricky Keeler, who is one of our Staten Island Yankees beat writers and has served as our lead draft expert for this year's draft. And you've come to know him very well in the Pinstripe Prospects Podcast. So let's welcome it in. Ricky, thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm doing great, Rob. It's been a lot of work covering the draft. We want to thank all of our people who helped out throughout these 40 rounds, covering all these players and getting these interviews that we're bringing to you guys. So thanks to everybody on the team who was covering the draft here at Pinstripe Prospects.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is a real team effort putting together all this draft coverage. 40 rounds is a lot. It is the largest of the professional sports drafts. So with that, I want to thank you everyone who is on the Pinstripe Prospects draft team. Thank you to all the SIDs and athletic communications directors for all the colleges that we reached out to, and of course to the players who were gracious enough to allow us to interview them. Special thanks to Lawrence Krieger, who's another one of our Staten Island Yankee writers. He was out in Secaucus at the MLB Network studios for the first day of the draft, and you'll hear him on this podcast later tonight talking to several of the players. But before we get into those interviews and breaking down individual players, Ricky, what has been your thoughts on this draft?
Well, I thought, Rob, it was an interesting draft just right out of the gate, drafting two catchers as early as they did. And you look at this organization, there's not really a lot of needs that they have, but I thought catcher was at least going to be one of them, because outside of Gary Sanchez and Austin Romine and Kyle Higashioka, there was not really a lot of depth at the catcher position in the organization. So to take Anthony Seigler, who's a switch pitcher and switch hitting catcher, that's a rarity in the game. I think they made a great pick there. Getting Josh Breaux in the second round, one of the best JUCO players in the country. I like that they stacked up on right-handed arms. He's never going to have enough pitching. And if they can get Ryder Green to sign in the third round, he's got good power. So I think overall, the Yankees, with their low bonus pool, couldn't take a lot of chances. But I think the ones that they want to spend the most money on in the pool are all interesting candidates if they can able to get them to sign and start their professional careers.
Yeah, you mentioned the draft. This is a pretty heavy draft at the catcher position. The Yankees drafted 6 players as catchers, and 1 player that was a college catcher they drafted as a first baseman. So that's 7 guys that could catch that they drafted this year. Other than pitchers, that's the most at a single position. This year they also drafted 6 infielders, 6 outfielders, 20 right-handed pitchers, and 2 left-handed pitchers. You know, when you look at that, that's a very lopsided draft class when it comes to pitching. But you know, the Yankees are really well known at developing right-handed pitchers, so there's a good chance that a lot of those guys will sign, and we'll be hearing a lot more about them. But Ricky, I wanted to talk to you about something real quick before we get into everything else. That catching position, you talk about there was not really any depth in the Yankee system. Do you see a lot of these catchers signing, and do you see them joining the top prospect ranks?
Seigler, I think, definitely can. You look at his game, he's got good extra base hitting ability. People love his throwing arm. I think he, obviously, being the switch hitter, I think he's going to come up and be one of those top prospects for sure. Breaux is one of those interesting candidates because he hit the ball well in JUCO ball, and he's got good speed. He had, I think, 4 triples, if I remember correctly. And you don't really see that a lot from a catcher, but he's a guy who wants to catch. He doesn't want to play any other position, so that's obviously a good thing to have. I like that they went for that aggressive at that position, because if you play well, you'll get promoted. I think the Yankees have done a good job with their depth, where in the upper levels of the farm system, if you're performing, you'll get an opportunity, even though there's too much depth right now. I think they'll do that with these catchers. If you're performing well, you'll be the one that moves up. But I think Seigler and Bro have the best chance to move up out of the other catchers in this class.
Yeah, that's a good point, and something else I want to bring up that you brought up. Yankees do have a very low bonus pool, and they drafted Green in the third round this year. I know you're saying if he signs, but do you think the Yankees would really waste that pick if they weren't sure he was going to sign and lose out on all that bonus pool money?
No, I think they absolutely had to do their homework on that and made sure that he was going to sign. Vanderbilt's a good university, so if he does decide to go there, Vanderbilt will get a good player. But Carnes, I think they love his power. He does have a lot of swing and miss issues, so that's something they'll have to work out, even though that's been really the issue how the game is played now. It's really about getting the home runs and not worrying about the strikeouts. But if they can get Green to sign, which I think they will, he could show some good raw power at the top of this draft. And he's really one of the lone power hitters that they got in these first 10 to 15 rounds or so.
Nice. And bringing it back to that first round pick, you talked a little bit about Anthony Seigler earlier. He was at MLB Network Studios for the first day of the draft. Our own Lawrence Krieger was there too. And after he was selected with the 23rd overall pick in the first round of the draft, Lawrence was able to talk with Anthony a little bit and get his thoughts about being drafted by the New York Yankees. So without further ado, let us hear this interview Lawrence did with Yankees first round pick Anthony Seigler.
Honor. Like I said up there, I'm really blessed to be here, and I'm really thankful to be able to put on this jersey and carry on the legacy that they brought.
You got to visit the ballpark today. When you were there, did it enter your mind that, hey, this is the team that could take me?
I mean, yeah, it did enter my mind, but I mean, I really, it was just like, if it happens, it happens. But I never knew it was gonna come true.
Now that it has happened, what's going on through your mind?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in mine. I mean, I can't explain it honestly. I'm just really thankful and blessed to be here.
The Yankees have a rich tradition and history with catching. What does that mean to you?
I mean, I'm just very excited. I can't wait to get it started. And I'm just ready to get out in the field and start playing, getting to work with them.
What could you just describe what it was like when you heard your name and took the Yankees too?
It was amazing. Like I said, I feel honored and blessed. I thank God that I'm here, and it's just it's awesome.
Did you think going into the year there was talk you really raised your stock a ton this spring? Did you kind of come into the year thinking first round pick probably wouldn't happen?
I mean, it's everybody's dream to be a first round pick. So I mean, I still had that in my mind. I want to be a first round draft pick. So I mean, that kind of helped me and motivated me this season to show my skills and then do what I did this year.
Was that Cashman on the phone?
No, it was what's his name? Yeah, Damon Oppenheimer. I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff going through my mind right now, but it was Damon Oppenheimer.
What did he say?
He was just excited that I was being able to play for him, and I mean, I'm just very excited to get it started.
He'd come to see you a lot, right, Georgia?
Yes, sir, he did.
Do you remember how many times he was there?
Maybe 3 times. Yes, sir.
When you see what the Yankees are doing right now with their lineup, how excited are you to eventually play with those guys and meet some of them?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. It's a huge honor, and I can't wait to be able to be a part of that. So it's awesome.
Anybody in specific that you want to meet?
Aaron Judge. I have to meet him. I want to meet him. See how big he is, and just be able to see him take some BP too. I would love that.
Was there ever when you worked out with the Yankees this weekend too? Did you feel kind of like there was a chance they could take it?
I mean, I felt like there was a chance, but I mean, I never get caught up in that. I just whatever happens, happens.
You think you'll profile behind the plate, or could you see yourself playing somewhere else in the field?
Probably behind the plate, but I mean, if they move me, so be it. As long as I'm playing the game I love, I'm fine with it.
3 of the guys you would say were going to pick in the top 10. What was it like waiting and getting to 23?
I mean, I'm glad for them. They're great players going in the top 10. I'm very proud of them. Being able to talk to them and get to know them, they're great people. And I mean, me getting that 23 is just a huge honor. So.
Can you talk about these shoes a little bit?
I mean, I just went to the mall, and I mean, these just caught my eye, so I wanted to get them.
You know, the Yankees had drafted an ambidextrous pitcher in the past, guy named Pat Venditti. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I've heard of them. I really don't keep up with them, but I mean, I have heard of them.
And Judge was here too, actually, when he got drafted.
Yes, sir. I do remember that. I've seen the video on that too. It's pretty awesome.
What made you want to come? A handful of guys come to the draft. Was anything specific that made you want to come up here?
I mean, why not? I mean, you get the invitation. There's not. I mean, you only get to do this one time. So I mean, why not come up here and then spend the time with your family, get to know other people too. So I mean, there was no doubt for me.
It's the first time here. What do you think of New York?
Oh, I love it. I love New York. It's a great city, and there's a lot to do around here. So it's pretty cool.
And when you went to the stadium today, all the guys went?
Oh, yes, sir. Everybody went. And I mean, Yankee Stadium was amazing.
So you did picture in your head possibly?
Oh yeah, I did. I've always wanted to. Since I was a little boy, I knew the Yankees were a great team, and so just being able to put on this jersey and then hopefully being able to play with them in the future is a huge honor.
When you walked around the stadium, you kind of pictured the possibility of getting drafted?
Oh yeah, I mean, I wanted to. I mean, just hopefully I could get drafted by them, just to be able to say that I got drafted by them and then being able to play with them.
You said you bought the shoes at the mall. Was it for this trip or was it today or what?
Oh, no, it was like 2 weeks ago when I knew I was going to come here. So
it was for this?
Yes, sir, it was for this, only for this.
Ready to cut your hair if they ask you to?
Sir?
Ready to cut your hair if they ask you to?
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, that's fine with me. I'll do whatever.
I remember we talked. You expect to go pro? You think most likely?
I mean, I hope to. I mean, like I said, whatever happens, happens. I mean, God's got a future for me, and whatever, I'm gonna just keep it in His hands, and then whatever He wants to do with me, He will.
Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I want to thank Lawrence for going out to MLB Network Studios and representing Pinstriped Prospects out there. He did a great job, and you'll be hearing several interviews he did with several draftees throughout this episode of the podcast. And now, Ricky, I want to bring this to, we'll go skip around a little bit to the fourth round of the draft. Right-handed pitcher Frank German. You had a chance to talk with his coach after he was drafted. So what can you tell us about him?
Well, as you said, I got the chance to talk with Tim Parrington, who is his head coach for the North Florida Ospreys. And this is a guy that, while Logan Gilbert got a lot of the attention in the Atlantic Sun as one of the best pitchers in the NCAA, German wasn't that far behind. He went 8-3, 1.58 ERA, had 108 strikeouts in 91 innings. And one of the things Parrington talked about is he likes to pitch with his fastball. He'll throw to all corners of the plate. And he was pitching a lot of 7, 8, 9 inning games down the stretch. So Parrington liked his stamina, so it was really good. And one of the things you look at with some of these pitchers from small conferences is what do they do against top-of-the-line competition? Their first 3 games of the season were against South Carolina, Florida, and UConn. South Carolina and Florida both in the upcoming Super Regionals. UConn made a regional. He had 17 strikeouts and 2 walks in those starts. And his coach said that when they would talk to the other coaches, the opposing hitters would say the fastball was jumping all over them. So he's got that good life on his fastball that you want. I think this is a real sneaky good pick by the Yankees in the fourth round because he actually went toe-to-toe with Gilbert in a start on April 27th and gave 1 run over 9 innings. So this is a guy that, while the innings aren't as high, he showed a lot for his team down the stretch going into the end of the season and into the ASUN tournament. So I think they got a good find here with Frank German.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about German. He's a 3-pitch pitcher. He has a 90 to 94 mile an hour fastball. Really good curveball. That's 12-6 break. Very late and sharp break on that curveball. He has a mid-90s circle change, and he commands all his pitches. Lawrence had a chance to talk with German. If you want to read it, the interview is on Pinstriped Prospects. But if not, this is your chance to hear Lawrence's interview with German right now.
Thank you for your time today. I'm at Pinstriped Prospects, so that's a website we handle a lot of all the minor league stuff for the Yankees. First question we have for you is, what was your initial reaction to being selected in the draft by teams such as the Yankees?
It was an initial shock for sure. I knew I had a chance to go in that area, and I received a call earlier saying that there's a high chance I'm going to go in that spot, take 127 to the Yankees. So I just told my family I watched, and it happened, and I'm very happy.
Your North Florida profile shows that you were originally born in Queens. With that connection to New York City, did you ever envision yourself being drafted by the Yankees?
Yes, I did. Growing up, they were a dominant team in the American League. They're the most talked about team, whether you like them or not, and it's just such a polarizing team that you can't help but imagine playing at Yankee Stadium.
How would you describe your work ethic and the assets you possess to help the ball club be successful?
I describe my work ethic as just persistent. I've been through a lot of challenges trying to get here, and given this opportunity, I'm not going to just waste it. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to have fun, and can't wait to get started.
Okay. What would you say your best and worst pitching approaches take when you're on the mound?
I think my best is just being aggressive and throwing strikes and not beating myself. Let the game come naturally. Just don't walk anybody for the most part. That's just my worst, I'd say, would be just when the walks do come, just beating myself, that's it.
Okay. Could you give us a little bit of a scouting report on yourself, on what you throw?
Yeah. I have a fastball, I have a slider, and I have a changeup. I'm pretty confident throwing either or, and I just pile in strikes, and that's pretty much it, I think. Just pile in strikes with those three pitches.
Okay. Who was your favorite player and biggest influence as a pitcher growing up?
My biggest influence is Chris Archer, Tampa Bay Rays. Me being a Tampa guy, he's just been someone I've looked up to.
Okay. And who would you compare yourself to in the big leagues?
I'll have to go with Chris Archer. I don't know if I'm a good comparison for him, but I've tried to model my game after him, so I'd say him.
Okay. And how would you describe your progression as a player, moving on from high school to your time in college and hopefully to a major league setting?
It's been slow and gradual, I'd say. Coming out of high school, I wasn't getting a lot of looks, but I got the opportunity to go to North Florida and play baseball at a D1 level, and just been trying to get better every day. That's the big thing. And now that I have the opportunity to play pro ball, I'm sure that won't change at all.
Okay. And I see that you threw a little bit over 90 innings this season. Did the Yankees tell you how they're going to be using you this season?
No, they have not. I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
Okay. Again, thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
And everyone, that was our interview with Yankees 4th round pick Frank German. Again, thanks to Lawrence for handling all of that. And I want to bring it back to the 10th round at the end of the second day of the draft. The Yankees drafted a very interesting pitcher, a left-handed pitcher, Jace Masadrawisky. Yes, I'm going to be butchering that for the next few years. He's a 3-pitch pitcher, a fastball, changeup, slider. He's a high 90s fastball. He was a starter in college. And when I saw this pick, I immediately thought of James Reeves, who was a senior sign, he's senior draftee, 10th round as well. He's a guy that will probably not be a starter in the professional ranks. I think Jace is going to do what James did and move straight into the bullpen and become a bullpen prospect from the left-hand side. Ricky, what do you think about him?
One of the things I think you have to like about this left-handed pitcher is his results improved every year in college. And while the 4-year starter sometimes doesn't get a lot of the national pub as, let's say, a guy that comes out in his junior year, he was very good his senior season. 9-2, the 2.25 ERA over the course of 15 starts, had 1 strikeout per inning, but 104 on the season. And he decreased his walk total down from 31 to 24. And he talked about it. I was listening to one of his post-game shows earlier this year. Talked about how he added a slider to his game. And if he is going to go out into the bullpen, having that third pitch and maybe that extra put-away pitch could bring a lot of value here. So the Yankees getting a left-handed pitcher, which you said was rare in this draft, but if he continues to go on that progressive climb, the Yankees might have a good pick here.
Yeah, like I said, I really think that this is a guy that's going to be so much better in the bullpen. You move him to a bullpen, he'll get another tick or two on that fastball and probably go toe-to-toe with James Reeves for lefty prospect rankings. But before we get into some of the other picks they have, let's break down where these picks came from. The Yankees had 9 of their selections were high school picks. They had just 2 guys that were junior college picks. 16 players were college juniors, and 13 were college seniors. I was a little bit surprised by that number of college seniors. There's a lot of college seniors that the Yankees picked up this year. What did you think, Ricky?
Well, as we talked about earlier, it's a bonus pool. When you have as low a bonus pool that the Yankees had in this draft, you have to go the route of college seniors at some point just to limit the amount that you can spend in those first 10 rounds. But I think all in all, they did a good job getting different players from different conferences and guys who dominated their league. I'll give you like 3 examples on day 2. In round 7, they took Daniel Bees from Gonzaga. He had 124 strikeouts this year, which is tied for the 12th most in all of college baseball in Division I. And he was their Game 1 starter in the regional against UCLA. They got Connor Van Hoos from Bucknell in round 8, who was the Patriot League Pitcher of the Year. They got Nick Borhoff from Grand Canyon in round 9, who had a 48-3 strikeout to walk ratio for the Antelopes out of the bullpen. Took, as we said, a couple of JUCO players, but Burrow was one of the top JUCO players in this draft. So while the Yankees may have taken some players that might have come from colleges and high schools you might not have heard of, they dominated their league. I think that's a good sign going into professional baseball, that while they might not have faced the elite competition, they dominated who they were facing, and that's a good thing as they head into professional ball.
You talked about some of the Yankees picks there and how they've performed in the college ranks, but is there any one of these picks that you really liked that it was not a big name?
I think going into round 13, the interesting pick was Isaiah Pastor. He goes to GW, was an infielder, and did some pitching even this season. He had 331, 11 home runs, 49 RBIs, stole 31 bases in 34 attempts. So when he steals, he likes to run. He's going to make it more often than not. He also had 3 starts for George Washington. I think he's going to definitely be an infielder at the next level. He transferred from Indiana, so he had to sit out the 2017 season, but he dominated in the Atlantic 10, had an on-base of near 400, slugging of nearly 600, and an OPS of 987. So after only hitting 5 home runs in the Big Ten in his first 2 seasons, he did a good job, I think, producing that power, albeit against lesser competition in the A-10 compared to the Big Ten, but maybe now focusing strictly as an infielder, maybe not so much as a pitcher, is going to help him, because this is a guy who did hit 308 in the Cal Ripken League in 2017, so he did well in that league. We'll see if that translates over. This is a guy that steals a lot of bases, and when he does steal, kind of like Troy outfielder Brandon Lockridge in round 5, when these guys steal, they're more often than not going to make it. It'll be interesting to see if that carries over as they progress on in the Yankees organization.
That's a pretty good breakdown of the Yankees draft picks. And I want to move it up to round 15. We had Nick Ernst. Nick was an interesting pick, as you know, similar to first round pick Clark Schmidt last year. Nick just had Tommy John surgery, but before he had Tommy John surgery, he was considered the 12th best prospect out of the state of Ohio, with a low 90s, 90 to 94 mile an hour fastball. So when you're taking a guy like this, do you really hope he signs, or do you expect him just to forego and go back to college just to show what he has and regain some of that prospect luster that he kind of lost due to Tommy John surgery?
I think it depends on really the player itself. If he's confident he can come back and put up those strong numbers coming off the Tommy John surgery, maybe he goes back into the draft and see what happens. But I think overall, when you look at what the Yankees are, he's a guy that can also maybe learn, like you said, from Clark Schmidt, come back and see where it goes from there. Tommy John, really, you have a lot of guys now that can recover easily from those surgeries compared to past years. So I think all in all, when you look at this draft, maybe Ernst, I think, has definitely a good chance to sign. I wouldn't rule out a chance that he decides to go back to school, but I think it's more likely than in past years that maybe he does stay in the pros and gets the rehab in the professional organization compared to in college.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him, especially if he does sign. But again, Lawrence had a chance to talk with Nick, and you have the chance right now to hear what he had to say. Enjoy this interview with Yankees 15th rounder Nick Ernst.
Again, congratulations on being drafted today.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Okay. So the first question, what was your initial reaction being drafted by the team such as the Yankees?
It's been a dream of mine my entire life to get drafted into the MLB, and the Yankees have always been a favorite of mine. I grew up watching Derek Jeter, so it was always a wonderful experience. I got to see him play at Yankee Stadium, so to watch me get drafted by the New York Yankees has always been a childhood dream. It brought tears to my eyes.
Okay. How would you describe your work ethic and the assets you possess to help a ball club succeed?
My freshman and sophomore year of college, I always just figured, you know what, like baseball's come natural to me. And then my junior year is when I really stepped up my work ethic. I started eating healthier and working out more. And I was within the gym with one of my buddies, and he was like, you know what, dude? He was like, yeah, you can make it. And I was like, oh, I hope so. And I just have always, since that day, I always worked up my tail off. I've always loved baseball. I've practiced since I was 3 years old in the front yard with my dad. So, I mean, just to be drafted, it really proves that hard work pays off. I've worked.
Okay. What would you say your best and worst pitching approach is when you take the mound?
My best approach is when I'm like, you know what, I'm better than you. I can throw whatever I want, and I guarantee you won't hit it. My worst is when I decide that I think I can throw it by you, and sometimes I can't. And sometimes I just leave it over the middle, and that's when I get hit, when I think I can throw it hard by people. And this year's really made me realize that you can't throw it by everybody. So that's when I realized that I couldn't do that, and then it made me a better pitcher because I started using my secondary stuff.
Okay. Based on what you just said, can you give us a little scouting report on yourself? What do you throw? What's the expected velocity? And what movement you usually get on those pitches?
I mean, I only had one start this year, and I was 94 to 97. My slider was like 86 to 89. My breaking ball was 80 to 84, and my changeup was like 82 to 84. So, I mean, I think really any pitch I throw is good enough to get people out. So that's what I got on. Yeah, I mean, I usually throw my changeup to lefties. My slider, I usually throw back foot to a righty. And I live high in the zone because I have a pretty high spin rate.
Okay. Who is your favorite player and biggest influence as a pitcher growing up?
As a pitcher?
Yes.
As a pitcher, I've always,
they can be different players if it's easier for you.
Okay. I loved watching Ryan Friel as a youngin because I'm from Cincinnati, and although he died, rest in peace into him, but he always played the game at a very, very hard, and I love the way he put everything he had into every single game. I wasn't a pitcher until my junior year, but watching Rivera was always cool. I mean, he came in the ninth inning and just shredded everybody, so it was always, like, once I was pitching, I've always been like, it'd be really cool to be a closer for the Yankees organization and represent New York the way he has. He's a legend. So, I mean, to watch him growing up, it was really cool.
Okay. Who would you compare yourself to in the big leagues?
In the big leagues, I'd say Max Scherzer, because he's always played with a very compassionate love of baseball. I think he plays at a very high energy level, and I like to play at a high energy level, and I think watching him play is kind of who I've modeled myself after.
Okay. How would you describe your progression as a player, moving through high school to your time in college and now possibly to a professional setting?
In high school, I was always just like, if I don't get a Division I offer, then I don't really want to play. And that was really weird to me because I could never see myself not playing baseball. So I started working harder, and I became a pitcher my junior year of high school. And everyone kind of was like, dude, you're pretty good at pitching. And I was like, thanks, man. Maybe I should start pitching more. And I pitched against my rival in high school. And that's when I started getting offers to go to college. And throughout college, I've found a super, special love of baseball. And I was like, I don't want to play this game until someone can't tell me I can't play anymore. So, since I've been a young kid, it's been a dream of mine to get drafted. And for that to happen on today is very special to me.
And what about possibly being in a professional setting? How do you see yourself progressing there?
In a professional setting, I think I will progress maybe in 2-3 years. Hopefully I can be a major league pitcher. I think I have a great work ethic, and I think I will work my way up to there. And I think I'll be able to do it and be able to represent the city of New York.
Okay. After getting injured earlier in the season, how has your recovery been going? And do you have a timetable for your return?
I'm supposed to start throwing in September. I've just been doing rehab and working out. I've kind of just taken this year to myself to figure out what baseball means to me, and I miss it greatly. And I've just been working out a lot. I've been working my legs. I know I can't work on my arm a lot, but I've been doing everything I can to get stronger, to get ready to be a minor league pitcher, and that's about all I can do right now.
Given the time it takes to rehab from Tommy John surgery, what are your expectations for the 2019 season?
I'm hoping I'll be ready by spring training. I don't know if I'll be able to pitch in spring training, but I'm hoping I'm ready to throw bullpens and be ready for the 2019 season and be able to pitch at whatever level I'm placed in. It's up to the Yankees higher ups. So hopefully I'll just be ready to pitch, and I'll be able to compete and do what I do best and get back to competing.
Okay. And one final question for you. Looking at your college history, you were a relief pitcher your first 2 years and projected as a starter this year before you got hurt. Do you see yourself as a starter or a reliever as a pro?
It's really not up to me. I'll be happy whenever anybody gives me the ball. So, it's really up to whatever they want me to do. I think I can start and I think I can relieve. So it really doesn't matter to me. I just really hope I get a chance to get the ball and prove what I have.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Again, thank you for your time and congratulations today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a nice one.
That was our interview with Yankees 15th rounder Nick Ernst. I want to thank him for joining us and, of course, thank the Yankees for drafting him. So it's going to be a very interesting year and see what happens with him. And Ricky, before we get into our next interview, I wanted to ask your opinion on some of these right-handed some of the pitching the Yankees selected this year. Do you think they should have picked more left-handed pitchers? There was other lefties available in the draft, but they did go very heavy on right-handed pitching. Do you think they should have evened it out a little bit more?
I think you could definitely make that case. You look at drafting a guy like Brady Allen in the 39th round, I think there's a huge gap, or maybe you could add a left-handed pitcher every now and then. You could never have enough arms, so I think in time, maybe the Yankees, that's something they focus on. Maybe they like the crop of right-handed pitchers compared to left-handed pitchers. I know definitely on the high school, prep school side, more of the strength was right-handers. Not exactly sure if that was the case on the college side, but if the Yankees felt that way, maybe that's why they went a lot of right-handed arms, and maybe next year in the draft they go a lot of left-handed arms to sort of counterbalance that, because every draft is different, and you never know who might be the strengths and weaknesses in next year's class.
Yeah, you're right. You never know what might happen, but we do know the Yankees are a very pitching-heavy system right now. Catching depth was pretty much depleted a couple of years ago, and they kind of are replenishing that now. We did get some infielders and a few outfielders drafted, so those positions are pretty much strong up and down the entire Yankee system. And the other thing the Yankees did do this draft was they drafted someone with some major league relatives, and that was 17th round pick Barrett Loseke. His second cousin is Kansas City Royals Alex Gordon, which is an interesting familiar relationship there. And he is a pitcher. He is 89, 92 mile an hour fastball, but he struggles with his command. Here's that interview.
Thank you for your time again, and congratulations about being drafted.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. What was your initial reaction to being drafted by a team such as the Yankees?
Yeah, initially, just in awe, and honestly, just extremely thankful. I don't think 5 years ago I would have expected to be getting drafted at all, but let alone be getting drafted by the Yankees, a great organization, and just a great team and a great, just talking to the local scouts, just, the farm system and how everything's set up. Just thankful to get put into an organization that prioritizes development. And I've also talked to Trevor Staffen, former Arkansas player who played here last year, he's in Double-A right now with the Yankees. He just had great things to say about the organization and, that all the things I had to look forward to. So
that's great. Okay. How would you describe your work ethic and the assets you would possess to bring to a ball club to make it successful?
Yeah. I would describe my work ethic as, obviously a hard worker, but I think everyone that gets drafted is a hard worker to even get to that point. But growing up, I was never a big prospect, not recruited out of high school or anything. Coming into Arkansas, obviously not one of the top prospects coming into Arkansas either. So I think a work ethic that, a no-lose mentality, an underdog mentality, and just the fact that not many people have particularly recognized me just due to being undersized and developing late. So I think that my work ethic is more, always having to prove myself.
Okay. What would you say your best and worst pitching approach is when you take the mound?
Best pitching approach, relaxed, but also excited, energetic. I think that, you have to let the adrenaline fuel you, but not get overwhelmed by the situation and get too excited and get too overwhelmed. I think I pitch best when I can relax and see everything that's going on around me and take in what's happening, but also, let the situation fuel me.
Okay. And what about the worst pitching approach?
Oh yeah, worst pitching approach.
Sorry to highlight that.
Yeah. Worst pitching approach, probably just thinking of letting the situation dictate me. I think not just being myself and not sticking to the approach and the plan that I have for myself and trying to be someone that I'm not.
Okay. Could you give us a little bit of a scouting report on yourself? Like, what do you throw, or what kind of velocity and what kind of movement you expect from those pitches?
Yeah. So I throw a two-seam fastball, 90 to 94, average 92, tops 96, a curveball that's 74, 75, change-up around 80, and a slider around 83. And then I use them all in different situations. primarily changeup and curveball to lefties, and then all 4 pitches to righties. Obviously fastball to lefties too. And then the fastball, I try to get a little bit of stay behind it and get a little bit of ride and a little arm side run. And then, that's about it.
Okay. Who was your favorite player, and who was your biggest influence as a pitcher growing up?
Yeah. Biggest influence as a pitcher or as just a baseball player in general?
Kind of both, actually. If there happen to be separate people, that's okay too.
Okay. My favorite player growing up was Alex Gordon. He's my second cousin, but we don't really have a personal relationship, and I'm sure he doesn't even know who I am. The last time I saw him was like 10 years ago, but he is my second cousin regardless. So I followed him growing up. But now, probably my favorite player, I like to watch Rick Porcello. I think he has similar stuff to me. So I just kind of just enjoy watching him pitch and seeing how he gets out. And then, what was the second question again?
I guess who was your biggest influence as a pitcher growing up?
Oh, biggest influence, yeah. Biggest influence, well, probably my dad, of course. He spent the most time with me just playing baseball. He played golf growing up, so he never knew, the fine mechanics of baseball and everything, but he was always hitting me grounders, hitting me fly balls. I didn't really work on pitching until junior year of high school, so it's tough to say that he had the biggest influence on my pitching career. Biggest influence on pitching career, though, was probably my high school pitching coach, Coach Farrell, or Coach Wes Johnson here at Arkansas. They're the two people I've worked primarily with most pitching-wise. But like I said, I didn't start pitching till junior year of high school, so.
Okay. I think you probably already answered my next question. I was going to ask, who do you compare yourself to most in the big leagues?
Probably Rick Porcello stuff-wise. Yeah.
Okay. How would you describe your progression as a player, moving from the high school ranks to college, and now possibly in a professional setting?
Yeah. The progression-wise, I was always a good player, but extremely undersized, especially in high school. And then I realized that I probably wasn't going to be able to get to a higher Division I school hitting just because of the lack of power. And so I decided that, I thought I could throw fairly hard, so I decided to start pitching my junior year, but still being undersized and throwing upper 80s. It was tough to get a lot of scholarship offers, and luckily Arkansas gave me an opportunity to come here and play. And then coming into Arkansas, like I said, I wasn't, I definitely wasn't a top prospect coming into Arkansas, but I've developed physically. I think I weighed 149 pounds whenever I first got to Arkansas, and now I've gained, 25 pounds at least since I've been here. So physically maturing, and obviously into professional baseball, hopefully to continue to mature physically and gain velocity. I've gained velocity every year since I started pitching. So hopefully continue to gain velocity and continue to learn how to pitch, because it's obviously an ongoing process. So.
Okay. In the draft profile that we wrote about you, the person who wrote it highlighted that your motion was a little bit herky-jerky. What advantages do you have from your motion?
Yeah, I've always had people kind of, mess with me ever since I started pitching. Like I throw that on like a shortstop, basically. But I think it's just, a testament that I'm a high energy pitcher. I think that, a quicker motion and a quicker arm action definitely helps the fastball get on the hitters quicker. And so I think that, if it's myself and it's effective, there's no reason to change it and no reason to slow my motion down. So I think, it definitely has an effect on the hitters. They step in the box and they have to be ready immediately, because I deliver the ball quickly, and the hitters here at Arkansas, whenever we face each other on the ball, they tell me that it's deceptive. So I figured I'd stick with it.
And one final question I have. Looking at your college history, you did start some games mostly towards your freshman year. Do you see yourself more as a starter or a reliever as a pro?
yeah, obviously hope to be a starter. Wish I could have been a starter at Arkansas, more, but obviously very happy with the situation we're in and have 3 great starters right now, and I think it just, fit to be in the bullpen here. But as a professional, hope to be a starter, but, if starter doesn't work out, bullpen obviously has worked out here at Arkansas and can work out professionally too, so.
Okay. Again, thank you for your time and congratulations.
I want to thank Barrett for joining us and agreeing to do that interview. Before we close out this episode of Pinstriped Prospects Podcast, Ricky, I wanted to turn it over to you. I wanted to get your final thoughts on this draft and what you think, how you think the Yankees made out.
It's tough to always grade a draft because you never know how these players are going to look 3 to 5 years from now. But I think all in all, the Yankees made some good picks, and considering the lack of a bonus pool that they had in this draft, I think they made some creative picks. As Carlos Clauser from Baseball America told us a few weeks ago, they were going to have to be creative in this draft with the lack of bonus pool. And I think they got some interesting right-handed arms in the first 2 days of the draft. We'll see how many of these day 3 guys hit, guys like Pasteur, who this draft, we'll see if he sticks as a pitcher, but he has the infield experience. Matt Pita from VMI has some good numbers in the outfield in round 12. I would also want to say on the Yankees side of things, keep an eye on what happens with some of these players as their college careers continue, because a lot of these guys still have college ball to play. Their super regionals are this weekend. The winners of these best of 3 series go to the College World Series. You have Loseke, as we talked about, pitching for Arkansas against South Carolina. You have Rodney Hutchison Jr. pitching for North Carolina against Stetson. The Yankees took a couple guys also from Tennessee Tech who are playing against Texas. So if you haven't got a chance to see a lot of these guys and you're looking to see what they're like the first time around, turn on ESPN, ESPN2, or ESPNU this weekend and watch some of the super regional baseball, because these are guys still competing, trying to make a College World Series. You can see some of these guys in action and in some high leverage situations.
Yeah, it's good insight. I want to thank you for joining us this week on the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast. And this is a very special edition of the podcast. We will bring you our regular episode on Sunday, Monday. But for Ricky Keeler and our entire Pinstripe Prospects team, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and thank you for checking out pinstripeprospects.com for your Yankees draft coverage. And keep checking back, because we will have more and more interviews throughout the next week leading up into the opening day for this 2018 Staten Island Yankees. And we'll have coverage from the Staten Island Yankees, coverage from Pulaski Yankees, and coverage from the Gulf Coast League Yankees coming your way. Thank you all, and enjoy.